All right, Jastin, A through Z.
L.
L. Okay, I can do L. I can do an L. Um, can I do an L? I guess I kind of can. Um, there's been some developments for. Nope, that's not. There's no L in that either. Damn it. Yeah, there is. Because Amelia. Perez.
There you go. There's that L.
And I was going to ask you guys, is it worth talking about since none of us have seen that movie? It's just, there is so much drama for a movie that no one I know has seen. Gets all the award nominations. The people that apparently have seen it don't like it. Every director that's ever existed says it's the best directed movie ever. It's this weird quandary of a thing. Because, you know, like I said, directors everywhere are saying it's the most wonderfully directed movie ever. And I don't understand that. And I can say that 100% without seeing this movie. Because I've seen clips of it. And I know that they're out of context. But they're bad. They're just bad. They're bad. And then on top of that, as a director, this Frenchman, he is from France. He is 100% French. Directed a movie based in Mexico and is mostly in Spanish. And is also quoted as saying that the Mexican language is that of poor people and developing countries. For some reason, that kind of inspires doubt in me that his movie in Spanish is good. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if I could trust that. Like, it's really weird. It's like, you know, if, I don't know, around the time Steven Spielberg did Schindler's List and was just like, I just don't get it. I don't get why the Jews say they had it bad. That might be too harsh of a comparison. I might have gone a little extreme. But I already accidentally went there, so kind of stuck.
We're here now.
I can't undo that. So I went there.
We have arrived.
What about better example. What about like American History X? And the guy's like, I don't know. I don't see what's so bad about the Aryan Brotherhood. Like, wouldn't it make you think that maybe that movie doesn't get the point then?
Yeah.
You know, and it being a movie about a marginalized community and all this other stuff, and the main actress is of a marginalized community and all this other stuff, she hates everybody. She has just done so many tweets about how she hates black people and hates Muslims, very specifically. Also hates the Chinese too. She just hates everyone. And then her apology was fantastic. Because she did that classic thing of, well, I apologize if I offended you. Why do people have to use the word if? Just say you're sorry. Because you're putting the connotation of, I'm only apologizing if I offended you. If I didn't, I meant it. Because that's how I read that. just say you're sorry. Just say, I'm sorry I hurt people. I'm sorry I said these things. Don't quit. She used the word if like 18 times. And it was always, I'm sorry if. And then she wonders why people don't think her apology's real. I don't know, because it wasn't. And the piece de la resistance with it. She came out recently saying that her co-star, Zoe Saldana, supported her 200%. Zoe Saldana released a statement saying, that's not true. I mean, damn.
Damn.
Right.
Damn.
Oh, dang. Oh, dang.
Yeah, like the drama behind this movie is a far more interesting movie, I think, than the movie itself, apparently. Like, it's bonkers. Like, I don't know. I just it's fascinating, and it makes me want to see the movie just to see like what all of this is about. But at the same time, I've seen clips of it too, and I'm like, I don't know about some of this movie, but like it's just interesting. And the fact that like I'm pretty sure it's got the same amount of Oscar nominations as Lord of the Rings got. I think I heard that.
I believe it's the exact same amount as Return of the King got.
That's like just surprising and baffling, especially because like what you were saying, like everybody I know that's seen this is like, no, this is not a good movie at all. And it makes it worse because before you had mentioned about the director, like I didn't know that that was his view of the culture. Like, why would you make this movie then? Like, I don't understand what your point was in even doing this if that's how you felt in the first place. Like, it's just everything about it is so baffling to me.
Yeah, it's just what a crazy Chex mix of shit. Like, because like on one end, I mean, I do want to see the film. Probably am gonna get around to watching it, but this is crazy because it's got all those nominations and all these like people within the industry speaking positively about it. And then you have another part of the of people and fans and people who've seen it going, no, it's not good. And I was kind of on the fence about that because I'm like, okay, are these trans haters? Oh, my bad. Man, I was saying a lot of good stuff. You didn't hear any of that, huh?
We didn't hear any of that, but it's actually recorded though.
Okay.
So keep going. Just keep going. We'll catch up.
Okay. Is it okay? Sure.
So
sorry.
Everything you just said is in the podcast. We just didn't hear it.
Okay. Well, just to quickly just paraphrase so y'all know where I was at. All I was saying is that it's just a crazy mix of things because on one end you have this movie garner all these nominations. And then you hear what it's about, this trans person and the mafia and all this stuff, and it's a musical and it's got some credible actors in it. So I hear that and I'm like, man, maybe it's forward thinking and maybe it could be kind of brave and it could be kind of something. Maybe the reason why it's getting hate is because of that. Maybe this is transphobia rearing its ugly head or people not looking at it fairly. And then you have industry people over here saying, no, it's great. It's like a game changer and it's all this stuff. And then you have this news come out about these tweets in the past and these racist tweets in the past with one of the people in it. And it's like, God, man. So how do you even... And now I'm just like, how how could I possibly look at this and be objective about it? how could I look at this at all and sort of be objective about all of the different things I hear about it? And now if I watch it, well, I feel like, especially if trying to watch it and trying to understand it as as a person who is marginalized, and then you have all the political stuff right now happening with people who are trans and everything like that. You know, the government's kind of coming down hard on them, so you want to root for them. You know, this is a movie. If I didn't know all of that shit, I would have wanted, a part of me would have wanted to root for this movie because of everything going on in the world right now. And that's probably half the reason why it's garnered so much attention and everything like that. Because politically, it's like I said, years ago when we were talking about the Oscars, I'm a sage for saying that shit. What is a lot of times what's nominated and what's up for awards is a product of the times. It's a product of a wave. It's a byproduct of how people are feeling right now. It's a pulse of how people are feeling, you know, like Nomadland and the whole COVID thing and people not being able to get out and seeing people out there living this nomad life when everybody's got to be inside, you know. I thought that had something to do with why I was nominated. And now you got this with the whole trans story and everything. But now you have this sort of part about it where somebody is racist, but I don't know, man. It's actually all kind of interesting because it does kind of show that even though you have all these different groups that are marginalized, and even though really they should be able to relate more to each other, because the same shit that is happening to you has happened to me and my people. If anybody understands you, it's me, but you hate me, you know? And damn it, Black people just never get a break. Does anybody like us? I mean, does anybody? Like, it's just like, damn, man. Even the trans people hate us too. Like, I mean, damn. We don't ever get a break. How come it's never like, oh, I hate white people and I hate these people, but Blacks are all right? We never get the benefit of the doubt. We always in the hate category. You know, I mean, I'm kind of being funny and facetious about it, but still, the sadder part is that we should all be able to relate to each other more, especially the marginalized groups. So it's just like, damn, man, you hate the other marginalized groups? You hate Blacks and Muslims? Don't you? But shouldn't you kind of understand what they're going through? It's so crazy.
It's that weird dynamic of just like, too many people find a reason to just hate what they deem the other. No matter where they're from, they're the other to everyone else. And they're just like, but what about that other group? It's very weird. And like, I'm sure that there's a psychological or sociological explanation for those things, or you know, a word they use in those communities to describe that phenomenon. But like, it's just really kind of like jarring sometimes when that happens.
Yeah.
Because like, too many times, like, struggles when it comes to things like civil rights and stuff like that mirror every other struggle for civil rights.
Yeah.
And yet people act like there's a differential in there. You know, it's like, like a big example of that was like like a woman's right to vote in America. Like, you would think that when they're like, yeah, women should be able to vote, women should have a say too. And let's be honest about what that movement was, though. At the time, very specifically, a majority of it was, well, white women's right to vote. they still wanted to be exclusionary to a degree. Because, and it's something we've talked about before, for whatever reason, people always see other people getting rights as lessening their rights. And so, you know what I mean? They had to be exclusionary because they're like, well, if we're too inclusive, other people getting rights means we still did, you know, yeah, we got rights too, but they're diminished. And it's that constant struggle of things when it comes to social issues. It's just almost, it feels like it's never ending. Like, if you just specifically even just look at like the last 100 years in our country alone, it's been never ending. There's just always a marginalized group that is having to fight tooth and nail for something, to get, quote unquote, the American dream. And to go back to what you were saying, Jastin, I mean, and unfortunately with that, it feels like every time supposedly that struggle should have ended for Black people, it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I know too many people in my own family that just don't understand how Black people could say racism still exists because, you know, the civil rights stuff happened 60 years ago. What do you mean? There's just been no racism for 60 years. That thought just boggles their minds. I don't know.
It's crazy. It's just, it just makes you just don't understand. And it's like, man, if all these groups banded together, there could be real change. But will that ever happen? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's indicative of this movie we're about to talk about, programming.
I mean, just realistically speaking, if you take every minority group in the United States, in combination with just the white people that, you know, at least partially claim to be allies. I'm not even necessarily saying they are. They at least just claim to be.
Yeah.
That would be
and
the
even
new majority.
Then you would still have some who really are.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to act like they're the ones who really are fucking pretending. There are some that really are, and they truly believe everybody should have the same rights and privileges.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, if you just took the ones that just, as long as they claim they are, they count.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. But I get what you're saying, yes.
That would be the majority.
Yes.
That's the majority right there. It's not even, not even close.
Not even close.
It's crazy. Because also, one of the problems with being so focused, if you are a majority and you focus too much on the minority, and you always shift what minority you're wanting to focus on. I know it's always in general, for the most part, everyone, but like, you know, when they get hyper focused on them, like for this instance, trans people, you're focusing on literally a handful of people in all actuality. An executive order was just signed banning trans women from participating in women's sports. If you look at the collegiate level, it's a handful of fucking people. A handful. Out of thousands of fucking athletes, it's a handful. Why are we passing laws and mandates and wasting any fucking energy on a handful of fucking people in a country of, what, roughly 330 million people? And I'm not even figuratively saying a handful. I am literally saying a handful.
Yeah.
Because it is literally a few fucking people. And this isn't one of those instances where that few fucking people are ruining it for everybody. It is quite opposite, like the quite opposite that. Everyone is just ruining it for that handful of people. It is absurd. Like I don't even get having that kind of energy. And I don't even mean like that type of negative energy. Because everyone knows I fucking have that for days. I'll find the negative in anything. It's fantastic. I'm just talking about the literal physical energy to give a fuck in that type of way. To where I'm like, I need to go make a law. I need to go make a mandate for this. Like I feel like my anger is exhausting at times. Having that level of vitriol, animosity.
Yeah.
How do you stay awake? You got to sleep 23 and a half hours a day to have that kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, but but this sort of opens up a conversation about all of that. It almost just feels like divide and conquer. As long as you can keep them divided, you can continue to control them. I mean, as long as it's, well, I care about my marginalized group, but I'm still going to exhibit the behavior and what I think has just been the programming of hating what you don't understand, trying to suppress what you can't relate to, trying to suppress what you can't comprehend. It's just going to continue, but these are all learned behaviors. This isn't what we naturally do. It's just learned shit.
I mean, it's really funny. One of my family members was dating a trans man. And so much of my family was saying things kind of like what you just said, Jasmine. I just don't understand. There's this magical thing that you can have towards people. As long as they're just not hurting people, you just don't have to care. And I don't mean that as in like, oh, you don't care about them. I'm just saying you don't have to understand. You don't have to understand to just accept it and love them and treat them with respect. You don't have to understand a damn thing. I don't actually understand all of the science that makes cell phones work. It doesn't stop me from owning one or enjoying having one or just, being like, damn, that's crazy that they just work. You don't have to understand anything, really.
That's true. You don't. And to the other side of that, just saying you don't understand and throwing your hands up doesn't mean that you are powerless in the situation to try and understand, to talk to someone who is Black, who is trans, who is whatever the marginalized group is. It doesn't mean that what happened to educating yourself to understand? Why does it just get to end at, I just don't understand?
Well,
why is that okay?
And that's 100% fair too.
Why
I
is
just
that
meant
okay?
that as in, I don't have to like understand the psychology of why somebody's trans to just be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have, like, you can understand trans people. I'm just saying, I don't have to like physically be able to sit there and go, I completely understand psychologically what they are going through. You don't have to just be like, no, but it's cool. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you still just approach them as a human being. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and my family member that was dating them. I didn't know what they were attracted to with this person or any of this, but I didn't have to. You know, I'm like, are you happy? Yeah, cool. You know, like that's ultimately what I cared about in the end. I'm like, are you happy? Because you are my family member. You know, like, are they a good person? Do they make you happy? Treat it like any other relationship that they could have been in. That's all that I really needed to concern myself with in that regard. Like, you know, I don't understand why everybody else had to make a big deal out of that. Like,
Well, the thing is, man, is that back to that magic word programming, man. It's different when you grow up in a house. It was the same way with me, man. Like homophobia just ran wild in my household. It was totally okay to make fun of gay people, to say negative stuff is gay, to talk about. My dad would sit there and tell my brother and I stories about how one of our uncles was gay and he never wanted to play outside and do stuff with us. He wanted to be inside and learn how to cook and stuff. And one time we were throwing rocks at him. And dude, like some of the stories that my dad used to tell me just sitting there, just talking about his family life and how he used to grow up. And you look at it now, and I remember my brother and I laughing at the time, going, ha ha, one of our uncles is gay. And now I look back and I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, it's so you got to understand a person. That may be simple to you, like, oh, well, just respect the human being as a human being. Easy to say, but when you've grown up and been conditioned and everybody says shit about black people, or you go to church and everybody says trans people are wrong and sinning and hellbound, and then you go to eat with your friends and two or three of them are laughing at the trans person that's at the gym while y'all are working out. Bro, you have to understand there are people where this hate is around them constantly, and they are just in this comforter, just laying in this comforter of just hate and phobia and ridicule and misunderstanding. And honestly, what helped me was actually talking to gay people, befriending some gay people, actually understanding them
I can actually
a little bit more.
I think I can distill that just a little better. I grew up in the same type of situation. Like, it's really crazy. We both kind of grow up in the same type of household and all these other things. And it's like, but then, those are the type of people also that might have racism and whatnot. It's like, but you're really just alike. It's crazy. But to distill it a little differently, I think what helped you, because I think it's the exact same thing that helped me. It's like you said, talking, but why did you talk to them? Because you actually had curiosity.
Yeah.
You had the willingness to learn. You had the curiosity to want to learn.
Yeah. And to be fair, there was some part of me that felt like something I was doing was wrong. It was okay around me and everything, but even going to church, even being around family members, even being around friends and doing it, there was some part of me, though, that always felt like there was always just kind of like, not like this is wrong, like the moral, the moral conscience on the right shoulder or anything. I wouldn't call it necessarily that, but I think too, like sometimes you just have a feeling like, is this really right? Something about this doesn't feel wrong. Call it the humanity, call it that better part of ourselves, call it whatever you want to call it. But I just begin to question, is this really the right view? And sometimes you got to get away from all that shit and talk to the other side, see the other side, and understand that, man, these are just fucking human beings too.
Yeah. And,
shit, just talking to him really opened up my eyes in a lot of shit.
and
You know?
weirdly enough, do you know what I credit my like having that mentality? Fucking Star Trek. Because they're going to different planets, and you just always like especially in TNG and stuff like that. The idea was to be diplomatic, was to be, to go and introduce yourself to other, species, and part of that is Riker, because on the flip side, Riker tried to fuck all the aliens. He didn't give a fuck. He's just like, oh, I'll fuck some aliens. You know what I mean? As weird as that sounds, it just kind of makes you. It makes you feel when you're growing up in that world and watching that and all this other stuff, that the other isn't bad all the time. Because they'd come across an alien and it's like, everybody's like, oh, they're the worst aliens. They're so bad. And then like they actually interact with those aliens and they're like, no, it's just a misunderstanding. They're not actually bad. It's this, it's that. You know what I mean? It's those types of things. And also, think about the cartoons, weirdly enough, when we grew up. Like, so many cartoons when we grew up also had that after-school message aspect of them. It's, like when you grow up on things like Reading Rainbow and Mr. Rogers, and even the old G.I. Joe cartoons, like all this kind of stuff, like they explicitly told you. Judging people based on how they look is wrong. Judging people for being of a different religion than you is wrong. And we grew up with all that stuff, and then people wonder why we don't have those same beliefs they have. Well, motherfucker, you raised me on the shit that told me all that stuff was wrong. So why am I going to think it's right all of a sudden?
Yeah. As long as people aren't hurting people, if you are stopping people from being who they are and trying to stop people from existing, usually you're the bad guy.
Like,
I mean, usually you're the bad guy in that situation. I mean, if that's what you're trying to do, you're the bad guy, not the other way around. Like I said, now there are conditions. Obviously, if you're hurting people or something, that's different. But I'm just talking about if you are trying to stop people from just living the life that they want to live, from existing, from just being who they are, and they are not hurting you or anything in the least bit by existing, and you want to stop them from doing that, you are the bad guy, not them.
yeah.
That's usually how it works. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't care what you say to me. I don't care what you try to throw at me, what book you try to come at me with. You're the bad guy, not them. That's just how I see it.
I mean, do you remember like when we grew up, when you were in history class, you never had the teacher go, well, guys, we're learning about World War II. And some people think the Nazis were bad, but some don't. And we need to understand the Nazi perspective of this too. That's legit some like things that people are wanting to do now. We got to make sure we two sides the Nazi issue. I don't get it. I just always thought, everybody thought they were bad. It's crazy. I mean, I remember history class. They were the axis of evil.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, man.
And why? Why were they evil? Because they were trying to stop people from existing. They were trying to stop an entire people from existing.
Oh, not even one entire, multiple entires.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that didn't want existing. And I just remember watching TV shows and watching Indiana Jones go, man, fuck the Nazis. And everybody goes, but Sterling, why do you hate Nazis so much? I watched a lot of Indiana Jones growing up. That is, if you take anything away from Indiana Jones, it has to be fuck the Nazis, right? Like, if you distill Indiana Jones down to one core principle, it's fuck the Nazis. And also, Star Wars. Like just look at Star Wars and growing up with Star Wars. They were taking down the evil empire. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up on all the shit that told us not to do the things that you're doing now, and you're mind boggled that I don't want to do them.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Anyway, fuck, guys.
Yeah.
We went really long on that. And we're not done. I'm sorry, movie. You're going to wait a little bit. Fantastic Four trailer debuted this week. I thought it looked pretty nice. I'm not going to say it looked great. I'm going to say it made me hopeful.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I wasn't moved as much by it like how I was with the Superman trailer. But that's probably just because I'm a bigger fan of Superman than I am like the Fantastic Four.
If everybody's realistic with themselves, they are too.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's probably, a majority sentiment there. But I root for the Fantastic Four because I do like them. They are a very significant part of Marvel, the Marvel universe. Like, they're like the first family of Marvel.
They like also predate a lot of Marvel.
Yeah, they predate a lot of Marvel, so they're one of those cornerstones groups. You know what I mean? The Fantastic Four. I know that they're not as cool as the X-Men and all these other groups, but like they were. But that was like, but to comic books, they mean a whole lot. Like, so you want to see them done right. Just like how we were like when Captain America was first coming out, we were like, oh, he's got to be done right. Because he's that one of those cornerstone Marvel characters. If they fuck him up, this whole thing is fucked up. It don't matter what they do from here on out. You fuck up Captain America, you fucking up bad. Well, it's kind of like that. You feel like it's not quite the same, but it almost feels like they're not quite succeeding if the Fantastic Four aren't right. And they just haven't been right for so long. There have been so many misses on them. There have been so many bad movies on them. You just, at this point, you just really root for this movie. You just want it. You just want them to finally get it right. And maybe we will. It looked good. All the actors seem to be playing their parts well. I like the special effects. I like the 60s feel of it. It felt right. It feels like it's in the right era with things. It just, I really hope it's good, man. I'm really rooting for it. I don't want to see another bad Fantastic Four. We've already seen so many of them. It's time to not see a bad one.
We've seen 3 bad ones, but we also know there is the 4th bad one. There is the one that came out in 1994 that never actually came out. That apparently is rancidly bad. You don't know the story about the 1994 Fantastic Four? Made by Constantine Films? They had the rights to it. They filmed an entire movie, and then never released it because I think it was more or less like it was a tax write-off type of thing. Like it was probably some tax evasion going on, but they had the rights to it, so they did it. And from what I have heard, it is just bad. As you would expect in 1994, trying to do a Fantastic Four movie.
Right.
It's bad. And then, so there is 4 existing shitty-ass Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this one is right, like that they got it right this time, because it's like part of me wants to be like, oh, well, they have a great cast, so that should help. But they've had a great cast before, and it was not good, from my understanding. I didn't watch it, but like the Michael B. Jordan,
Van
Kate Mara, Miles Teller one,
Van Forstick should have been amazing.
Ooh, Fan Forstick.
yeah, like so. I mean, but yeah, I also really like the '60s vibe of it. And I think the reason, like, I agree. I think the trailer, I think it looked cool. Like, it made me excited for it to be coming out. But I also, like, am on the understanding of it's really just like a teaser trailer. Like, it's not like a full trailer yet. You know what I mean? At least that was my understanding. So it's really only like, this is just a taste of what we're going to show you. And you'll get a little bit more of a, like, this is the trailer later on. You know what I mean?
People need to understand the difference between a teaser and a trailer.
Yeah.
A teaser is just a bunch of scenes. It's just a bunch of scenes. A trailer hopefully won't ruin the plot, but should have some plot in it.
Yeah.
Just so you can kind of understand what the movie is about. A trailer should
Right.
kind of give you that, just an in general feel for what a movie is about. So there is a little bit more thematic plot elements in a movie or in a trailer. A teaser is just scenes. It's just to go, hey, this movie's coming out. Look at some scenes. Let's tease you.
And honestly, it makes sense for like a comic book movie to have that, where it's like, you want to see what the costumes look like, or, and you want to see like what the people look like that are these characters. So let's at least give them that, to give them something to look like. That makes sense to do for superhero movies or, Marvel or DC or whatever other movies like that, because like, of course, you want to give them something to look forward to for later when you do have that trailer.
It's all blockbusters typically do teasers.
Yeah, and that's true. I'm just saying it makes sense for like, yeah, totally. Like, it's a superhero movie. Of course, you mostly would want to see a teaser of that,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, Superman did that. That's Superman. We colloquially, why can't I say that word? I'm the worst at the words. I thought you were going to say it for me, Heather.
I was trying to figure out in my head, like, because I know the word you're trying to say, but now I'm second guessing how to say it.
Well, we
colloquially.
Yes, that word. We will intersplice trailer and teaser constantly. Yes, that is just a part of American vernacular. But they do serve thematically different things. Superman was a teaser. It's just a bunch of fucking scenes. It's all it is just to tease the big movie. Do you need to do that on small movies? Not really. You can just give a trailer. But this is a movie they want to make $1 billion on. So what do they do right now? They give you a tease. And then 2 months down the line, you get a trailer. And then 2 months after that, you get the second trailer. And then 2 months later, the movie comes out. It's a formula we've done forever for big movies. And people, when they're sitting there going, but nothing happens in this. Well, yeah, because it's a teaser. It's just scenes. It's just so you can get a look at the characters. You can get a couple of lines of dialogue. You can kind of get a sense of the setting. That's it. And that's what this did. And I know a lot of people are hating on the Thing in this trailer. I'm sorry. I guess you hate comic accurate Thing. I've never heard it. It's so weird. Everybody's just like, but he looks too much like the comic books. And they're just so mad about that. I don't get it. And they're like, but he looks animated. And I'm like, well, yeah. It's not bad, though. Yes, does he look slightly computer generated? Sure. But that's also because we as people know rock people don't exist.
You don't look any different than Korg or any of these other people that people were fine with. I just don't understand.
That motherfucker doesn't look any different than Thanos.
Yeah,
like, do you really think Josh Brolin's 8'6" and purple and wrinkly? No. Come on.
And like, there were people putting side by side pictures of Ben Grimm in the comics and the picture of the Ben Grimm in the movie, and they looked the exact same. I mean, it was the exact same, and people were still like, "Oh, he looks horrible." I don't know, man. I don't know what people want anymore,
dude.
I don't know. The blue suits they were wearing with the fur on them, people got mad about that. I'm like, those are the suits they wear. What do you want? What do you want?
Because they're used to the modern version of them from the other movies we got, so that's what they expect, maybe?
No, because they hated the way they looked in those fucking movies too.
Yeah.
And you never know. It could be a gag. It could be you don't know what they're going to do in the final movie. How many times in these more modern superhero movies have somebody had on an old costume and they were like, how about we go with these? And then they go, nah. And then then they change into something more modern. Or what if that's a flashback and they're all in those suits because they were about to get in some test thing and that's what they have to wear. You know, it doesn't mean that they're going to be in them constantly. You got to see the story. You got to let it play. I mean, you think after 30 something fucking movies, somebody would just know these things happen.
Or also, what if that is just like, especially the Thing in that one kitchen scene, what if that's just his around the house clothes because he's a rock and, you know, he needs something soft to not scratch up the couch?
Exactly.
Like, that's just his house clothes. It's fine. Like,
yeah.
And I know people were hating on his voice because it wasn't gravelly, but why does it have to be? Just because he's a rock person doesn't mean the voice has to be gravelly. I mean, I was really thinking about it, and it's really funny because the Thing in the comics is a New York Jew. And then they got a New York Jew to play him. And it's almost like it's too accurate for people again. They're like, he sounds like a New York Jewish person. Oh, no. That's the worst thing for a New York Jewish character to sound like.
I don't know what fans want anymore, man.
Dude,
who plays him in the Fan Four Stick?
Jamie Bell.
Okay.
That's the appropriate response. But like, you know what I dug? I dug that little subtle rock noise they had every time he touched himself. Like when he's like licking his finger to taste the sauce, and it had that slight rock on rock sound. And
when he clapped,
when he moved,
it didn't sound like hands clapping.
Yeah,
it sounded different. Yeah.
And when he moved, it sounded like rocks kind of grinding on each other a little bit. I was like, that's a nice touch. And they're just like, no. I don't know what they want. And the sad thing is I don't think they know what they want either. And don't get me wrong, I've experienced that. I know there's a movie specifically on here we watched, and I went, I don't know what I wanted, but I know I just didn't want this. But I can't tell you what it is I wanted.
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember what movie it was.
Neither do I. And I think that these people are having that with this movie. They just aren't self-aware enough to realize that that really is a them problem. And not really the fault of this movie. But this week we also got a Jurassic World Rebirth trailer. I really liked it. Because I think they listened to people. And they went, man, a lot of people really hated the dinosaur locusts. What if, and hear me out, what if we just went back to some dinosaurs and then we just added some other crazy dinosaurs because, you know, it's all made up dinosaurs. And somebody went, I guess we can make that movie. It kind of looks like that's what we're getting. And I don't know, just looks great. And it's because I love that idea. You know, dinosaurs in a dinosaur movie. I know. It sounds crazy. It sounds far-fetched. But, you know, call me a traditionalist. I like dinosaurs in my dinosaur movies. And it looks like that might be what we're getting. Now, outside of that, it might be just a gigantic dumpster fire, but hey, at least it looks like I'm getting some fucking dinosaurs, so cool.
Also, great cast. Like,
oh, yeah, it looks like a fantastic
across
cast.
the board.
Yep.
You got what? You got ScarJo?
Mm-hmm.
You got Mahershala Ali,
Mm-hmm.
who was cast, filmed, and releasing a movie all since they last had a Blade script. I'm not even talking about since they announced it, because they've done so many of those since they first announced it. I'm just talking about since the last time they had a fucking script. He got cast, filmed, and is releasing a whole Jurassic Park movie. It's also got, what's his name? Jonathan Bailey. You might know him as Fiero from Wicked. So, all right. Look nice. I feel like just so much shit actually happened, but I don't remember it. You guys got anything else for news?
I can't think of anything.
I'm good.
Well, I hope this movie review is a good companion to that news segment. I felt too much like you, Jastin. That made me feel gross.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
That made me feel like you saying hungry like the wolf on the last episode. It felt gross.
Oh, you know you love that.
No.
Weren't you like, oh, that's yummy. That's a yummy quote.
I think I called you a
Did
son
you
of a
say that?
bitch.
Didn't you say that? No, it was yummy. It wasn't yummy. It was some of it. It wasn't yummy.
No, I think I called you a son of a fucking bitch.
Oh, I heard yummy. Close enough.
I'm going to live in your head for a day, Jastin, and just hear the things you apparently hear. You just don't live in reality.
Not really.
Hey, Cinefans. Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we like, didn't like, and everything in between with the new movie Companion. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes and description to allow you to jump around if you so require. And with all that, our resident robot sex bot expert, Heather.
How did I know you were going to say me on that? Oh, man.
Because it makes it a little awkward.
Yeah, exactly. So for this movie, I will say I didn't fully know like what this movie was actually about when I saw the original trailer, or maybe it was the teaser, whatever it is that I saw for this. I didn't know fully what this was about. Well, I did end up seeing like some promotional material that gave it away. I do think that this was like, it would have been a fun thing going into this regardless, not really knowing what this was actually about. Because if you did go into this blind, I think that when certain things happen or are revealed, you probably would have had fun with that and like, oh, that's where this is going. That's what this is, you know, because they very much play it as one type of movie at the start, and then it turns into something else completely. But yeah, I think that the story unfolded in a really fun way. You get like, you don't really get full context as to who like our main character is right away or what's happening with her, until, I mean, it's easily a good, maybe 20 minutes in or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, so there's like this air of mystery about like the relationships happening here. They give you hints and clues before you know, but I don't know, like watching it all be revealed into the context that it was, I think that it was just really fun how they did that. And it was told in just a really cool, fun way. But was it the most unique story about this subject? No. Not really, but it is different enough to where you want to know what's going to play out. I think that the characters are probably the best, like the dynamics of the characters in this are probably the best thing about it. You have some really good, like, I think it's Harvey Guillen, is in this, and he was probably actually one of my favorites in this. I think he was excellent. And then you have, like, I think his name is Luke Gage. And he was really good in this, probably one of the better roles I've seen him in. Sophie Thatcher is a really great lead for this. And I don't know, I think there's just something about her, like, in the roles she's in is always very captivating to me. So I think she was a good fit for this role in this movie. I know we recently saw her in Heretic, and I think I mentioned something similar about her there as well. She's got like a really good main character energy to me. I don't know why, but it's just something about her presence on screen I really enjoy. And of course, Jack Quaid, who I am a big fan of. Whether he is playing a good guy or a bad guy or something in between, he's got a very specific Jack Quaid way of doing what he does. And it's like this, I don't know, good comedic delivery with sarcasm, but it's also like a little bit of earnestness and like just sort of like everyman vibes that he always gives in his roles. But it just, it really works with the characters that he plays. So I really like him as an actor. So yeah, I think casting choices were really good. And then I think that the, I don't know, like the way they interacted with each other seems like it was really, I guess I would say it felt realistic in a way. Like just as a friend group, because a lot of this is based around a friend group. And I think that it felt very much like, people who have known each other for a while and all these things. So, and I don't really know exactly why, but it kind of like this movie felt like a mix to me of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Blink Twice for some reason. Like, obviously not like exactly the same, but there's just some elements to it that kind of give off the same vibes of those types of movies. So it was an interesting mix of different things happening. But overall, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's not like a groundbreaking masterpiece movie, but it is enjoyable and it is entertaining.
Now on to our resident, like, beach house or lake house debauchery expert, Jastin.
Okay, so now I guess everybody's going to be a resident something now. It's not just one person anymore.
Not me in this episode. I know nothing related to this episode, so.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Heather, to kind of the point that you were making when you first started, I probably would be considered one of those people who sort of went in blind. I only had seen the teaser for this. And in the teaser I saw, you don't know anything about what the character is or anything like that. I just distinctly remember that fire scene and thinking, what is happening? I just remember the teaser being really weird because you're seeing all of these scenes and some people getting diced up and crazy stuff is happening. And well, there was one where you see a little more, but then there's one where there's not very much. It just looks like a love story. And then you see somebody burning and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And it was just really weird and kind of out there for a teaser. I didn't see any trailers for this that revealed more of the plot or anything like that. So I was kind of somebody who just went in, haven't seen that teaser, and saw nothing else for this. So I did get to, I guess, experience it. And the initial twist was a twist to me. So I like how they did it. I like how the story was told. And I agree with you in a lot of respects. I do think that this is a very entertaining movie. You know, it's got that dressing of a love story, but it's also about AI and robots and this kind of interesting story that happens. And I think instead of it being about the humans being too consumed by the AI and the AI goes bad, it's kind of a reverse Megan. Like, I guess you could say that. Like, instead of it being about the the computer or the companion or the AI or the robot, whatever you want to call it, going bad because of being self-aware, they flip it and it's actually a good thing here. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler, but I mean, it's I don't know, it's in the previews. I mean, a little bit about what this is. But either way, I'm not saying who or what, but that's how I felt about it. That's sort of what the story is. So because of that flip, it made it a little more interesting. And you're rooting for the character that you don't typically root for in a story like this, you know? So I do think that that flip made things more interesting. And I think that a lot of the comedy in this lands because of the performances, because of the friend dynamics, the comedic timing, like the supporting characters do have some good moments in this. They're not just there to be cannon fodder, or they're not just there to kind of serve a purpose and then they're gone. I think the writing was good to some of the supporting characters in this. Like you mentioned Lucas Gage and Harvey, and I mean they wind up being more integral to the plot than I thought. And you know, they're involved in some revelations that I do think ultimately work in this movie. And yeah, you're right about Sophie Thatcher. She was great in this. I thought that she did a really good job. And even like initially, she's acting in such a way and doing certain mannerisms where I knew something about her wasn't quite right. And I was kind of like, why is she acting with like these interesting twitches or these interesting things that she's kind of doing? Like she had these interesting mannerisms about her. And then when you find out what you find out, you're like, oh, okay. So that's why we're doing certain things. But I got to hand it to her for playing this part, because this is a part that is kind of complex to play, but she, I think, did a good job. She handled it very well. She's great in a lot of scenes. And I mean, her interaction, her and Jack Quaid, I thought were great together in their scenes. And Jack Quaid just kind of has a way and a presence about him and a charisma about him. It's not the same as Dennis Quaid, but I will say that like the way that Dennis Quaid, I guess you could say, was charming for like the 90s and or would you say like the 80s and the 90s? Probably more that era. The way that like Dennis Quaid was charming for that, he is definitely coming off as that type of person today. You know, he's got those same kind of charming qualities about him. But it's
and his
great.
mom, same with Meg Ryan. She was that 90s charming too.
Yeah, she was. So I guess it's just in his blood, so to speak. So he's definitely got a knack for being able to do that. He's great in The Boys because of that. And in this, it's interesting because what you think is one thing is another. And when they flip things with him, you get to see him play to the other side of that charm and stuff like that. And it really works, but it's not easy because you also kind of have to do it within this comedic tone. But he's good at that, man. Like, he's really good at that. And we already knew he was good at that because of The Boys, where there's constantly these serious, crazy, intense situations. But, you know, not just Jack Quaid, the other actors were doing it too. But him in particular, he was very good about bringing some levity and some comedy to some crazy, intense shit that was going on in The Boys. I think he does it here. And he's able to, like, flip the tone and the mood for what it needs to be. So all of that is good. I really like the messages of this movie underneath the surface. I think it's a very conversational movie about gender roles and relationships and the whole thing about programming in a relationship and the concept of love and versus loving someone, trying to leave someone and loving yourself and all of that kind of stuff. And the patriarchy versus how a woman has to deal with those things. There's a lot of good stuff in here that I think is conversation worthy in that regard. So I liked all of that. It's a smart movie. It's not just a dumb comedy. It's not just a bloody kind of thing. It's smart. It's smartly written. There are a lot of good metaphors in this, and I think the characters represent them well, and the story is told well enough for that. So all of that is well executed. So I can understand why critics are liking this. I can understand the high scores. They're probably deserved. The only thing that really just stands out to me in this movie, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a flaw, but I do think it's going to depend. It's going to be kind of the eye of the beholder, the eye of the watcher. There are a lot of moments when you just reflect on the film. There are a lot of moments where plot convenience and characters making certain decisions rears its ugly head. And there are a few moments where you feel like, well, if the character had just done this one thing, none of this would be happening right now. And there are a lot of situations like that where you go, did it have to go this far if we just did this thing or if we just didn't do this thing? And maybe the reason why I'm saying I wouldn't call it a direct flaw is because some of it you may be able to argue is because of the flaws in the characters themselves is why they're making these decisions. But I know that some people will not choose to look at it as nuanced as that. And they would just go, nah, man, if the motherfucker would have just done this thing right here, this shit wouldn't have been happening. So I don't know. I don't think the movie, either way though, it's more on the negative side because I don't think the movie justifies or escapes all of those situations. And maybe if it had been one or two, but there's quite a few of them, especially when you get into the third act. And it's like, oh shit, man. Like, it's hard to forgive it all and say it's all okay. It almost feels like there's so much of it, I don't think all of it is okay. But honestly, that might be like pretty much the only flaws of the film. I think it's well acted. I think it's not long. It's short, but for the most part, it is sweet. It gets to the point. It's smartly written. It's well acted. It's a fun film. It's got a lot of twists and turns, and it doesn't lean on the twist like something like Argyle or something like that, where it was just twist after twist, and you're like, what the fuck? Can I just leave, please? And it's 2 hours and something of just more twists. At least this had twist. Maybe you predicted some, maybe you didn't, but they were fun. They added a dynamic to the writing. They added a dynamic to the storytelling. And then we were on to something else. We were doing something else. So it knew how to use its twist to properly tell the story. So I think that's just another testament of the smart writing. So yeah, overall, it's a good film, man. It's a solid film. It's a good film. It's well executed. And for the most part, I did enjoy it.
I guess I'm on the flip side of both of you guys, because I hella knew what was going on going into the movie. I had seen the original trailer. I saw the second trailer where they're like, yeah, that's what she is. I had seen the poster that gave that away. I knew all that.
That's what gave it away for me. I saw that poster and I was like, oh, okay.
And that kind of tracks. You are the poster trailer news person. I mean, there's hardly a trailer you haven't seen, so that kind of tracks.
Yeah, so I knew everything going into this movie. I didn't think that detracted in any way, shape, or form, because I don't really think that aspect of it that we're talking about, even though we're kind of hiding it for spoilers, just in case, I don't think that's essential to this movie, because to me, that twist happens so early. It's not the twist. You know what I mean? That's not the twist, because you find out very decently early on. I want to say it's 15, 20 minutes in. All that's revealed, So I don't really think that that's completely what the film's trying to even hinge on as a surprise, really. I do think the plot is a little standard. I feel like we've seen this movie before with types of things. And that's fine, because what happens when you get into a plot that's not necessarily completely original or is a little tropey in some aspects and stuff like that? Well, then you end up leaning more onto the actors, and you lean on to some of the more character relationship aspects of things. And I do think that that's where this movie does succeed. I think the actors are really well. I don't remember which one of the girls, Sophie Thatcher? Yeah. I don't remember which one she is.
Iris, the lady that's doing the stuff.
Yeah, but there's two ladies in that, and I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one's Iris. I don't remember.
Iris is the main character.
Okay. I guess. I don't really remember.
The other
Iris
one
is
Kat.
Sophie Thatcher.
I mean, you ought to remember the one named Cat. Damn, you fucking up.
Yeah, but you should probably spell cat with the K. I don't know what the fuck that is.
It's fucking Cat on and don't know can't remember the character named Cat.
Yeah, cat with
You
the
fuck
K.
it up,
Who
brother.
gives a shit?
Do better, Sterling. Do better, Cat
It's
man. Do better.
cat with a K, Jastin. Who gives a
Do
fuck?
better. Be
If
better.
she
buddy.
owned cats, he would remember.
Or
Yeah,
she
maybe
was-
that's what it is.
if she
Maybe
said-
since there wasn't a literal cat, he couldn't remember.
Man, she's sitting there, and if she specifically said, "Hey, my name is Cat with a C," how would they gone? I see you, Cat. I see you. No pun intended with that. I see you either. I just realized after I said it twice, but still. She was good. Jack Quaid was good. Jack Quaid tends to be good. I can't say he's always good. There's another movie he's in that I don't necessarily love. But
It's probably the one I'm thinking of where I probably did really like him in it.
probably, but Jastin hasn't seen it, so I don't want to say shit.
It is that one, yes.
I'm just saying it's an episode. We've done one on the Jastin's not on. Anyway, what is his name? Luke Gage. He was good. I liked him. I liked the girl from It Lives Inside. She was in this movie. And then the guy that plays was it Guillermo and What We Do in the Shadows, he's in this. And he was good. I liked all of them. I thought that was fun. I liked their little party they had. That little dancing scene. I thought that was nice. I liked all that stuff. I thought that was fun. There's a gigantic character flaw in Jack Quaid's character, and I don't mean that as in bad writing. I think it's actually very good writing. He's got an inherent flaw in his character that I think is very funny if you think about it when it gets to the end of the movie, and I'll go into that in spoilers. That's just really kind of funny with that. I get what you're saying, Heather, with bodies, 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 and blink twice, because it's the movie of them just being isolated in the middle of nowhere, and it kind of leads to just stuff happening. That is contributed on and placated on the fact that they're isolated in the middle of nowhere, and I think it leans into that too. So I get that type of stuff. But also, like Jastin said, there's that programming aspect of stuff that leans into some of the, leans into the blink twice of it all. I mean, overall, like, while not feeling completely original and not being, a groundbreaking movie or anything like that, I still overall, enjoyed the movie because it hinges on the characters and the characters succeed. And my final part of this is just, I like the way you worded it, Justin. It's like a reverse Megan. That's really good. And I like that because I think that's something that we have gotten away from a little bit of, the innocence of the AI, like where now, AI is always the bad guy. Like there's the AI got corrupted or it learned this and it does this. It's always the AI getting corrupted. There's a movie called Afraid with the AI in the Afraid being the AI. It's real bad, guys. It's real bad. Real bad. I know I was a little harsh on Megan. Oof. Afraid's bad. I might be apologizing to Megan when we do Megan 2.0 because of how bad these other AI movies have been in those regards. Because I just didn't know. Didn't know how bad it could get. But I liked it. I liked it in this. It was, I think it was it was like an older type of take on things. Like that aspect of it kind of reminded me of almost a Terminator 2 or an iRobot with how they turned that part of it. And I liked that. Yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Spoilers or recommendations and scores?
Yep.
Yeah.
Recommendations and score.
Jastin, what you got?
Yeah, it's going to be a recommend, man. I mean, around this time, people are, with it being February and everything, and, Valentine's is the theme of the month and all that's going on. So people are looking for like probably movies like this, date movies, stuff like that to go see. And I mean, if you wind up going to see this one, it's a love story, but it's kind of but it's nuanced in the sense that it's not your typical one. You've got your AI, and like I said, the whole reverse Megan type of thing. And sometimes even if the plot line of a story is familiar, sometimes just adding one wrinkle that's different can make it feel more fresh than what it is, can make it feel can make it feel like it's more new than what maybe the outline of it implies. And I think that with this, what I'm finding is that people were just really liking the comedy of it. It's got some dark comedy elements, but it's got some AI, like we said, Megan Terminator 2 type elements to it. The blood is pretty bloody. This is not, it's bloody and gory, and it has that kind of stuff in it too. So sometimes it's got even some horror elements as far as just when it tries to build tension on certain things and things like that. So it's got a mix of things that I just think most audiences will like about it. There's probably something in here you'll like about it, whether it's the comedy, whether it's the love, will they or won't they, the love and to love or not love elements of it. you've got the blood and guts and all of that kind of stuff. And then you've got people doing really good acting performances. And then for those reflective nerd movie watchers like me, you've got the metaphoric conversational stuff that's fun to pick apart and talk about what the characters represent and what that says about the patriarchy and shit and women's role in that and all that bullshit. You know, it's got all that stuff in there too. So, I mean, and maybe a mix of all of those things could be bad, but not in this movie. I think it handles all those. That's a lot of stuff for your stir fry. But I think overall the meal was all right. It was pretty good, man. You know, they cook it well. The movie cooks, man. I think that's a good way to say it. When the movie cooks, it cooks, man. Like when the comedy is good, it's good. When it's time to start killing and stuff, it's good. When you need some good acting scenes where the characters are we're developing character arcs and stuff, it's good when it does that too. So it's pretty sharp, man. I can't say nothing bad about it. You know, it may not have been the most impressive person at the ballroom, but it might be one of them. You know, this guest might make the list, you know, may not win the big trophy, but might be a finalist, you know, made at least a little bit of an impact at the party. So I think I can say that for it. You know, it's got enough good stuff for you to say it's a good movie and not feel like I'm lying or trying to push that or anything. I don't even think I have to try. It's just a good movie. So I'm not going to not recommend a good movie. So yeah, I think it's good. It's good. It would be a nice, good date movie. But even if you don't go to the theater to see it, this is definitely one you could stream. I could see myself rewatching this. I think it has some rewatchable elements to it, just the characters that are funny. There are some funny lines and quotes and things like that in it too. You know, it's got some rewatchability values to it as well. So, yeah, it's good, man. So with all that being said, we'll go 80 Love Connection oranges, drop it in the supermarket out of 100.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I also recommend it. I think it is honestly the best word that I can think of for this movie is it's just fun. Like it's just entertaining. It's nothing extreme out of the ordinary or anything like that. It's honestly also a bit predictable in some ways, but it really is driven by the character dynamics and the acting performances. But I think the way that the journey that we get in this movie, I think is a good journey. And I mean, yeah, like as far as movies of this genre go, or this specific thing go, it's better than some. It's not as good as others. It's kind of right there, sitting in the middle. But as an overall movie enjoyability, it's good. You know what I mean? So it's just very. I guess I would categorize it a little bit as like a thriller in some ways too. But yeah. So I think it's, and again, like those are the movies that I like a lot most of the time, more than others. But yeah, I think it's a fun watch, and I think that you would enjoy it. For the most part, I think it would be an enjoyable film. So yeah, recommending it. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it 80 was it dinosaur head costumes out of 100.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's pretty good. I don't like it as much as you guys. But like I said, to me, it felt very familiar. But like I said, the character's good. I liked a lot of that stuff. There's some good. There's a lot of really good comedic elements too. I think there's some really good funny moments in this film. but I would recommend it still. I think I liked what you said, Jastin, too. It does have a rewatchability to it. This is a movie that, I could see watching again at home or something like that. I just don't know if I'd be like waiting to watch it at home. Like, oh, I can't wait to watch this again. But I'm like, yeah, I would watch it again. Like I said, I'm going to go a little lower than you guys. 75. 75. The brains are in the stomach. Out of 100. So that puts the CineScore at 78. Spoilers?
Yep.
Yep.
Spoilers.
What I was alluding to earlier with this is, to me, the funniest joke in this movie. And like I said, that inherent character flaw in the Jack Quaid character. No matter how you parse it out, his plan was just never going to work. Even when she, even if she hadn't escaped and done all that other shit, his plan would have never worked. Because even if he had done the default settings and done this and that and blah, 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 he didn't know they recorded stuff. He didn't know where the hard drive was. And then on top of that too, whenever the techs come to pick her up, they're just like, right after everything, he's like, oh, that's crazy. Can't believe that happened. And then they're like, door shuts. He's like, oh, he definitely fucking modded this thing. Like, they knew exactly what it was right away, So even if his plan went off without a hitch, he would have gotten caught instantly. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that that's one of the funny things about this movie is because, like, well, he does have the tech gadgets and he has this and that and blah, 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 and this and that. And he was never going to succeed either way. And I just thought that was kind of funny at the end of the movie when you find that out, that it wouldn't have mattered either way. He wasn't going to get away with it. But on top of that, it's a fun journey because he, not only does he, like I said, he wouldn't get away with it, but the movie then shows you really who he is as a person. Like, regardless of anything, it does show you who he is as a person. It shows who she is as a concept of a person. And, I like the different dynamics of what the people have and stuff like that. Everybody's like their approach to these, I don't know, androids, robots, whatever you want to call them. They all have a slightly different perspective about it. I really should have looked up these character names, and that might have been a little bit easier to kind of, talk about these people's, thoughts on it if I had done that. Okay. So you have, is it Eli?
Yes, Harvey.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, the way he approaches who I think was meant to be the twist of Patrick being one. I think that was meant to be a twist. I don't really think the Iris one was really meant to be a twist. But, Eli, the way he approached, Patrick, was actually that they had truly formed a bond. That there was love, that there was, an actual connection between them. Whereas Josh pretended like that was the case with Iris, but ultimately still just looked at it like a fuckbot when it really came down to it. He didn't see anything as a sense of humanity or anything towards it. And then you had the cat character who just hated it. for the most part. Hated the idea of it. Like she said, felt like she was being replaced, you know. But also, what does that say about herself? That she viewed her role in men's lives as the same thing that Iris was serving as a robot and stuff like that. You know, so you get all of those interesting dynamics within the group when it comes to the idea of these robots and stuff like that. And then, you know, like I said with Josh, you know, as much as he acts like there's a real connection between him and Iris, the second it goes like, you know, awry and all this other stuff, man, he uses her, he uses Kat, he uses Pat, he uses everybody. He then ends up looking at everybody like that as a tool, as a, you know, a means to an end, as a, you know, something to just do something for him. You know, so he ends up also, like I said, Kat looks at Iris as replacing her, which is saying stuff about herself. The way Josh treats Iris also shows how he thinks of anybody in his life as that, you know. And so it's like there's really interesting dynamics with things. And like, you know, then you end up really kind of feeling bad for the Patrick character because he's just stuck in the middle of it. He, as far as you're concerned, as far as he's concerned, as far as anything really tells you, he loves Eli. But because, you know, Eli dies and Josh erases him, he just becomes a tool. And he loses that connection he had with Eli just because somebody else wanted to use him. You know? And so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in here when it comes to the intricacies of the characters and, you know, ultimately the dynamics in their relationships with each other and stuff like that. And that's what I truly enjoyed in this movie. So even though, like I said, aspects of the plot did feel kind of familiar to a degree, because I think what it is it's like a movie where maybe it's not robots, but it's like, you know, oh, these people go out to do this thing and there's the plan and, oh no, the murder plan goes wrong. And so it's, you know, it's that type of thing where we got to catch the one person that's going to tell on us. And, you know, I think that it's that type of movie that this movie felt so familiar to, because it is that. But those dynamics and the characters and stuff like that are the shining light in this movie, even if it does feel familiar from a strictly like plot and narrative standpoint as the base story foundation. Heather, what about you? What are some spoilery thoughts from you?
Yeah, I actually, when you were talking about like Patrick being the twist, like that Patrick was also one of the AI robots, that you're right. That was a good twist because I didn't see that coming either. And I like that they didn't reveal him to also be one until later, because for one, again, it was a good twist, but also just like how everything after we find that out plays out, it just really worked well. And like there's like this really cool aspect too that you see in Patrick and Eli's relationship of Patrick is programmed, right? And he's programmed to feel this connection and to love Eli. But even throughout the movie, or like him being used as a tool, even at the end, it's a cool idea that they sort of become a little bit human and have these real feelings, because when he was recalling in his memory his relationship with Eli at the end there, like the emotion of it was flooding back to him. So it was kind of that cool idea of these AI robots are actually becoming a little bit human with these connections that they're making. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. And honestly, Eli and Patrick's relationship, I liked just as much as any other like relationship dynamic, because Harvey Guillen, he is, I always see him in like funny roles, But man, he actually was really good here with the sincerity and everything when he's talking to Patrick and they have that moment like in the woods. And the same thing with Lucas Gage. Like he just they felt very like their chemistry was really good together, and I really liked it. And I liked seeing that switch in Patrick's character of becoming just like, in a sense, sort of what you alluded to a little bit earlier, Sterling, of like a Terminator almost. Like he's just like, here's my mission. I'm programmed now to just kill and do terrible things and be aggressive and whatever. So yeah, I just really liked that aspect of the film. And I guess like the ending is a little bit anticlimactic because I feel like there's like they lead up to this huge like showdown, obviously between Iris and Josh, but I feel like they don't really like. There's not a good build up to it, or I feel like maybe if there was a little bit more of the cat and mouse type of game with it before the showdown, it would have been cool. Because when Iris kind of finds out what's going on, right, and then you see that she took Josh's phone. And she finds like, oh, I can change these settings and this programming and stuff. I think it would have been cool to find ways for her to use that even more than she did to sort of like mess with him or to show that she is in control and all of that. Like, I just think that that would have been a cool lead up into that final battle that they have there at the end of it. It didn't take away from the movie. I just think like with all of her learning these things, and then you see her intelligence level changing so much too, like just something in there being a way for her to be like actually controlling it when he thinks he's controlling it. I think that would have been like a cool element. But also to speak a little bit to what you said, Sterling, about their party they're having, and they're like just them having a good time and hanging out. That also plays in a little bit to the aspect you mentioned of Josh pretending to have this real connection with Iris, because when she's trying to go over there and dance with him and like she's trying to be like affectionate with him, he's very standoffish. You see moments where he's just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? And you know, when you don't really fully know what's happening in the movie or their relationship, you're just like, why is he being weird about this? And then we find out like he doesn't actually care about this AI robot. He just wants it as something he can use and just like discard, but make like really manipulate in a way, and her not know it because she doesn't even know she's a robot. So I think that was cool little subtle things they did in the movie to show you like, again, some of who his character is of like, you know, you think he's being like this good boyfriend, and then you realize, no, everything he's doing is just very selfish. Like he's a very selfish character that actually doesn't care about anybody else. And I think it's interesting too, because in the teaser for this, or the trailer you see for this movie, it does paint Jack Quaid as the bad guy, but it was in a very different way. Like my first thought was, oh, he's like this serial killer dude that just picks up women and tortures them. That is the setting that I had in my mind for what this movie was. And so it was kind of interesting when the movie starts out and you see like, oh, he seems like a good guy and a good boyfriend. And you're just like, and then you find out like she's programmed, but she kills somebody. And then you're just like, oh, maybe he's actually not the bad guy. But then later you realize, oh, no, he is still the bad guy, but just a bad guy in a different way than what the trailer shows you. So I liked that because there was still that air of mystery around who Jack Quaid's character really was. So I don't know. I like that we don't really fully know what to think of a lot of these people until a little bit more into the movie. And I think that I don't know. I think with the guy that she meets in the woods, or not meets in the woods, but like the technician guys that that were in the house that were trying to like repair her, and then he runs away in the woods. I feel like they could have used that guy more. The kid that was like, I don't remember his name, but I feel like they could have used his character in a bigger way than what he did here. Like, especially knowing that Jack Quaid's character was doing what he was doing. I don't know. I feel like maybe help her sort of take him down or help her plot to get to him or whatever it was. Like, there's just, I think he could have been utilized better. But and also, again, like, I just really like the concept of they are programmed with in their mind what their like meet cute is and all of these memories implanted of what their relationship was. And in reality, we see later that it's like, no, that's not at all like how you actually met this thing at first. So I don't know. It was really the way that all is revealed to us, I think, is really, really well done, because you also in a way sort of feel bad for Iris. Like, I know she's a robot, but you feel bad because you're like, she doesn't know that. She thinks she's a person. And like, you see the heartbreak a little bit when she realizes, oh, I'm just a program. So it does have layers. It has these elements. And yeah, I just really, I think that they handled the different elements well, but again, nothing that was so spectacularly different or stand out in any way. That's why for me, it's the dynamics of the characters that really drive this movie and make it as entertaining as it is.
Jastin, what about you?
Cool. So just coming from someone who really didn't know initially that Iris was a robot until they were ready to reveal that. One thing that was interesting is that, just coming from that perspective, is that when you're watching these opening scenes and her and Jack Quaid are having these conversations, she sort of has these little tics about her, like this little kind of shift that she's doing with her mouth, and she kind of like has almost like this twitch or something. It was almost like, and I didn't know what that was at the time, but then finding out that she was a robot, it made me appreciate Sophie's performance even more, because whenever she did it throughout, like she would just have these little tics and things that she would kind of do. And it was almost like you could see the CPU computing something or the AI working or whatever the case may be. Like, she acted in a really cool, nuanced way to where, even though, yes, for the most part, she's acting like a human because this is an advanced robot, there were still some very mechanical things about what she was doing with her face, just how she would answer certain questions, the cadence of her voice. So all of that was really, 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 really good. Like, she did a really good job kind of balancing the robot of this, but then the more human elements and parts of this. So I just think that she did a real spectacular job with that. Yeah, definitely the twist about Lucas Gage being one of the robots. I totally didn't see that coming either. And maybe if the strategy was that, okay, you may or may not know that Iris is a robot, but that one you get to find out early, but there's another one that you don't know about. So I thought that dynamic was cool, because it led to kind of that being a big moment in there. But and you kind of spoke to it, Heather, but I love, like, in the opening, how when all of the chaos starts to happen, and we kill, what was the name of the person who owned the house? Sergey.
Yeah.
When we kill Sergey, and then all of that happens, and Jack Quaid is kind of playing like, oh no, what did you do? What did you do? And he's acting all worried and everything. It's true. You didn't really know what kind of movie this was, or exactly what you were getting, or, okay, is this a story of her becoming bad? And then at first you were thinking, okay, is this a story of her being innocent, but becoming bad because these humans suspect that this robot killed this person and he was our friend and everything like that? You know, your mind is
rogue or
just
something.
racing. Yeah. Your mind is just racing in those moments like, oh man, so what is this that we're about to be? This is about to be. And then to find out that she's a robot and everything. And right away, they don't give you, though, that there's this bigger plot that Sergey was supposed to be killed because the robot was modded by Josh. And this was all part of a plot to steal this guy's money. But I love how they told that in such a compartmented way that you really didn't know. And when you find out, it's kind of cool that when you're finding this stuff out. Like, I think the movie did a really good job of spacing out the twist. Like, so all of these things keep it from feeling like the same kind of movie that you watched before, because a lot of things are happening that you're not able to predict. So I think it just allowed me to sort of invest and be more invested in the story, because it kind of does a lot of things. And what's cool about it is that the story starts as one thing, it reveals all these things to you, and then it becomes this cat and mouse kind of chase sort of thing. So again, we have another movie kind of, you know, doing the Amora. Was that right? Amora? Is that how you say
Anora.
it? Anora. Yeah, my bad. I had to put an M there instead of an N. Anora Parasite type of thing, where like it's one movie up until a point. We have this crazy twist, and then now it's this other movie. But I thought that was cool. Another movie that does it effectively. So I guess we're just going to start seeing a lot more of this. It seems like movies are kind of testing this water more and taking more of a chance with this more.
With that concept, one example recently of that was Barbarian, right? This is produced by the director of Barbarian.
Okay.
Just for context.
Yeah. So, but now it's just something that I'm noticing a lot of movies doing. And it's not always a recommended thing. It's not the traditional thing to do, but when done right, it definitely makes the movie more interesting. It definitely makes you invest more coming out of that first act into the second act. And I think maybe that's why it's so effective, because rather than like just having the typical thing where it's like, okay, we have our kind of explosive beginning, attention grabbing beginning, then we kind of establish the characters, and then, you know, we kind of establish the characters, but then we kind of get into the meat of them in the second act, doing this interesting thing where, and maybe it works better in a shorter movie. I don't know. Maybe that's the sweet spot might be that this has to be shorter for this to work. I don't know. We'll have to see when a 3-hour-long movie tries to do this or something. But I don't know. Maybe the sweet spot is, though, when it's shorter, it can work, because you can pull all these little twists out. You flip the movie on its head. Your audience is disoriented, but we're like, what is happening? But we're intrigued. And then it helps when things have to slow down in the second act, because we're still like kind of on our toes, on the edge of the seat, trying to figure out the ins and outs of everything that's happening. Or the movie has introduced these new concepts. So now we're like inquisitive and we want to know, oh man, so what's happening now? So what are the dynamics? Who are real friends? Is anybody else a robot? You know, we're doing all of that shit. So it makes what typically is a slower second act to have to deal with a lot more interesting when you do it this way, if you do it effectively.
The funny thing is, Jastin, is we do have a good example of doing the whole like changing movie type in a long movie, because Killers of the Flower Moon did that, remember? it kind of becomes a different movie towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end, when it goes all about the case and stuff like that. And Oppenheimer did it.
Yeah.
But to me, that felt more like second to third act. This was definitely first to second.
And that's fair. I'm just like, whenever you said that, I was thinking about
and
it.
Anora was the same way. That was first to second.
And maybe that's fair. Maybe that's the distinction of it, because we didn't really like it. As much as we all really did like Killers of a Flower Moon, we talked about how that wasn't like the best way to do it. And I think with Oppenheimer, at least I know you said, Jastin, it didn't bother you, and I mentioned it bothered me more because they do it throughout the whole movie. The whole movie is going back and forth between the not the trial, but there's the congressional stuff and the secret, the top secret clearance stuff, and then the story of him building. You know what I mean? It's going back and forth between those elements throughout the whole movie. And whereas I think whenever we've had this outside of Barbarian, I didn't necessarily love it that much, but these last couple of times when Companion does it, when Anora did it, we liked it. And I think it really is that first to second act transition. I think maybe with Barbarian, where that did become a little iffy for me and not necessarily so much for you guys, is that's not a first to second act transition as much as it really is just a midpoint transition.
Yeah.
It just is a midpoint transition. It's a little after what would traditionally be the second act start.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little more 50-50 than this, where the first to second act, style of your movie changing really actually works very well.
Yeah. Because typically when the second act is, and that's why it's dawning on me now, because typically where the second act is, things slow down a little bit. We develop characters and we're kind of developing the story because we want to get to the exciting resolution when we transition over to the third act. And sometimes that's where, especially like a lot, your average moviegoers and stuff like that, that's where they're usually complaining that things are slow. Y'all have that complaint in Nosferatu, where like once it transitioned to the second act, where we're kind of developing characters and getting to like the middle portion of it, where we're trying to figure out and prepare for Nosferatu and stuff like that, and it gets kind of slow. It didn't have a transition like this movie had. Like, we knew what was happening. We know, okay, this is Nosferatu. Okay, our guy is trapped over here. Our gal is over here. He's coming. Uh-oh, here are all these new characters. What are we going to do? And it goes to developing that. But in that scenario, you kind of know everything because of how the style of it. It's establishes this part. Now in the second act, we're going to establish this part. Where this was way different, though, is that doing that flip at the end of the first act means you're going into a second act with some just crazy feelings. And maybe it sets up you being more ready to absorb what the second act is going to give you.
Well, and also maybe to that degree, too, when you're getting to know the characters, because like you said, the second act is always about building that part of it. You also just put other stakes into it, too.
Yeah.
You just put excitement into learning about the characters. And like, why does that work in Anora? Because like, yeah, you're building the story, but you're getting to see her dynamics with the guard. You're seeing all these dynamics. You're even seeing the dynamics with her husband, even though he's not there.
Yeah.
But there's action and movement going with the learning. And it's the same with this, because you're finding out about, you actually find out about Eli and Patrick's relationship. You find out more about Josh. You find out more about Kat. And even though Sergei is dead, you're finding out about Sergei
Yeah.
in the second act. You're developing the characters in that second act. You know, you're finding out more about Iris because Iris is finding out more about herself. You know, all throughout the second act, while there's the chase, while there's this, while there's that, like all of this stuff going on.
Yeah.
While you're learning
So it's
about the
great.
characters.
It's engrossing. So that made it like very engrossing, very much easier to absorb. But if it had just done the typical thing where you slow down and it's like, okay, now let's really get into who Josh is and who Kat is and who Eli is. If it just sort of was slowed down and we hadn't gotten to the kill yet and we're just slowing down to meet characters and stuff like that, maybe it wouldn't have been as effective. But doing the table flip and going, we're after the robot now. And then you finding out. And then so now in the second act is infinitely more interesting. Because like you said, we're finding out all these other characters' dynamics, but then we find out about the plot to steal this money from Sergei and what that's about and everything like that. So just very, very effective storytelling from a first act, second act, third act. You know, that's something that kind of will help to set this apart. It makes it more enjoyable. It's one thing to say it's enjoyable, but it's another thing to like understand why. And I think that kind of will make this, that's kind of one of the things that makes this a cut above some of the other stuff.
And why it's so engrossing is because you're finding out about the characters through the plot, you know, because you're paying attention to the plot. And in that, it's telling you about the characters too. You know what I mean? You're not taking time out of the plot to develop characters. They are like intertwined with each other. So it feels more complete because that's also like, you know, in real life, kind of how you find out about people. It's always like whenever they're like, oh, you might know somebody, just wait till you live with them. You know what I mean? Because now you're intertwined and you'll see different things and all those things. So it really kind of adds a layer of what people are kind of more inclined to learn with, you know, because you might have a friend and you're like, oh man, that guy seems really cool and all that stuff. And you're like, man, yeah, like we're friends and all this other stuff. And then, you know, one night you're at the bar and they get a little drunk and they say something bad. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. I don't want to be associated with this anymore. That's bad.
Yep.
You know, but why? It's because you're doing something. Doing something can bring different dynamics out of people. Because if you just had the building plot, Josh is going to seem like a pretty stand-up guy for most of the movie.
Yeah.
You don't get any real insights into him. You know, and it's because there's other things going on and because situations present themselves. What are they like? What do people always say? It's like, oh, you don't know who people are until, you know, you're in a bad situation or until the chips are down or whatever. Like then people will reveal themselves.
Reveal themselves. Yep. Yep.
And this movie just does that by the nature of the way it presents itself, which feels more natural to people because we know this as an inherent thing of just being around people and experiencing lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all of that is great. So like this has a surprisingly good second act because of all of this, because that's where a lot of discovering and learning is. We talked about these other characters like Josh and Eli and some of them, and all of that is great. But Iris is definitely the most interesting to me because especially when you think about the dynamics of this programming, like it's interesting that like, so in order for them to make this connection with you, there's this love moment or this memory that has to happen with them, that moment that you first met, that moment that you first met this person and fell for them and stuff like that. And it's just kind of that typical thing that even when you're in a relationship, that is a memory that most people in relationships hold on to. That moment that you met and kind of started talking and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought that was interesting that was there. Like that's like the initial thing that sets the connection with you. And that's the memory that this thing is holding on to in order to keep that connection with you. And so what's interesting and what's cool about the movie is some of the things that this programming is used to kind of talk about the commentary beneath the surface. Because during this second act where she's on the run, she's having these conflicting feelings because it's like, okay, this is a bad guy. Like, this guy is no good. Like, but there's this kind of this question with this robot of, but do I still love this person? Like, do I still care about this person? And she's queuing up these memories and holding on to these memories and holding on to like these good moments that they had and questioning, well, is going away from him the right thing? Which is very real things that I think humans do too. Like when you're on the fence about breaking up with somebody, you think about those good times, you think about those good experiences. And sometimes leaning on that stuff when the bad stuff is right in front of you still, though, even though this is very difficult for this robot because of programming, I found it kind of relatable that, I mean, this is kind of how it is for a human. You know, I think they were really good about kind of showcasing that. And then like some of the gender role things, like Josh, another thing about Josh. Yes, he was stupid because this plan wasn't going to work anyway. But Josh is kind of like that delusional male that says he's a good guy, but he's not a good guy. Like he's that, and I mean, I'm sure Heather, I know you've had some of them. I know you've met some of them. I'm pretty sure you got some. I'm pretty sure you have met a guy like this. Like that whole thing, like that whole speech about his villain speech when he was like, "I'm a good guy," you know, I'm a good guy, and like,
oh, I love that because
isn't it all over the internet? Aren't these motherfuckers everywhere?
Just
like
being a good guy in word only.
Yes, I'm a good guy, but I'm not willing to work for the money. I'm trying to steal from somebody. I'm not out there trying to date and find a real woman. I got this robot that I can control and is completely submissive to me. I don't want her to be smart. I don't want her challenging me or anything like that. So the intelligence is under 50% because I don't want this female robot challenging me or anything like that.
Smarter than me. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want anybody smarter than me or anything like that. But I want a woman that I can control and everything like that. And as soon as I lose control or that woman wants to do something on her own or something like that, I'm trying to shut that shit down. You know?
But also, how telling is that when you're like, I don't want somebody smarter than me? 40%. Like you're not even saying that like close to your intelligence, you know, maybe you could put 90, whatever. Like you want them to be smart, but you don't want them to like challenge every single thing you say or whatever. But now he's going, no, 40%. That way she's just slightly dumber than me.
Yeah.
That's so
40%. I don't want to be challenged intellectually by this woman in any way. I just want her. I just want to be able to have sex, have her do the things I needed to do, and that be it. And even then, after having all of that, that wasn't enough. Let me modify her programming. Let me still try to change her from what she is and make her do some extra bad shit for me.
I really wish though that there was that scene though, like when they were doing flashbacks of him setting it up and everything like that, where he was like, if he had like gone to like 50% and then got worried that it might be too smart and been like, that might be too much for me. Under 50. I wanted to see that scene of him going, 50 might be too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know that happened. You know he turned it up to 50 because it's half. You know, sometimes you just do that anyway. You know, you turn your music knob. I don't know. Maybe I'm the person that's like that. I use the even numbers and shit, and you know, I don't use like the fours and the threes. I try to keep it on the fives and the zeros. I don't know.
You're one of those people,
you know he put it on that 50.
You're one of those people that your volume always has to be a multiple of 5.
Yep. I don't know why. I'm one of those. I know. I'm one of those.
Mine's multiple. Mine would drive you nuts because mine's technically multiples of 3.
Why? Oh, that's weird.
Because I prefer the number 6, but I know that that's not realistic because sometimes 6 is too much. So in my head, I go, but 3 3 fits well into 6. So I can accept 3s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. But I've as we've established, I've got weird brain. Because 90% of everyone I know it does what you do, Jastin. Like 99% of everybody's like, it's a 5 or a 0 or you're a monster.
Yep, pretty
much.
And
I'm like, but 3s. I'm like, I can go to 18. That's fantastic. It's like 18 is almost the perfect number for me because that's like it's 6 and 3, and I'm like, fuck yeah, it's 6, it's 3, it's 9. It all kind of combines into that, and I'm like, that's perfect. And everybody else is like, it's 15 or 20. And I'm like, but 20 is a little too much. Gotta go down to the 18.
Just turn it up to 20, bro. Come on, man. What are we doing here?
And then I can go.
What are we doing here?
And then it scratches that other itch in my brain where it's also 3 6s, and I'm like, hey, it's the evil volume. Which just stop it. I don't know what it is. Like the groups of 3s and this, like it scratches this amazing itch in my brain that I know it drives everyone nuts. And that's also why, because it's my little evil number. I'm like, haha, it's not 20. I'm evil. It's just,
man,
so many levels. And it's and I get it. It's stupid, but like that. All of those thoughts go to my brain when I turn it to 18.
Yeah, man. I guess we all kind of have our little programming that we kind of go by. I guess we all just can't help it. Everybody's got a little programming, I guess.
As much as I would like to think that I would be the type of guy that'd be secure with my sex bot being 100 intelligence, my brain wouldn't allow me to do it. Because I wouldn't like the 100. It would have to be 99.
Yeah, you wouldn't like the 100.
It would have to be 99.
66%.
No, it would be 99. I can deal with 99.
99.
Because it's 3s, 6s, and 9s all can fit into it. So yeah, I could do 99, but I couldn't do 100 because I'd be like, oh, but 100's a bad number.
It's interesting, just also like you're right, how all of our brains work differently. Because I tend to fall into the category of 0s or 5s for volume.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the truly sociopathic thing of you don't care. Can we all agree those are the real monsters?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't do 0s or 5s, I at least would prefer it to be on an even number. But yeah, that's kind of just how my brain works with it.
I'm not going to lie. I was really worried, Heather, that you were going to sit here and be like, I'm not like that, guys. I'll just, turn up the volume. And I just stop when it's that loud.
No. I need it to at least be on an even number. I prefer in the intervals of the 5, like either the 5, like if it's, which is weird because it's like 15 is not an even number. But if I'm doing like 0, if I don't do 0 or 5, I have to do like, I can't be like, okay, it's on 11. I'm like, no, it needs to be on 12. like, or it needs to be on 10. Like, that's just, I don't know why I do that. But
And it's funny because, see, my system I think's way better because 12 works for me, 15 works, 18, 21 even works for me. Like, because I can get those threes. Like, so I'm fine with all those numbers. But you put like a 14, I'm like, you're a psychopath.
See, all that, 14, all them 12s and all that stuff, that just makes me a little uncomfortable. But
so for all of us to be comfortable in volume, it'd have to be like what, 15 or 30 or 45 or 60. Like, that's the only way we're ever going to be comfortable is multiples of 15.
Next time I ride in your car, I'm gonna look. Be like, hey, turn that volume up a little bit.
No.
You keep turning to the number you're comfortable with, and I'll keep requesting down or up. It would just be hilarious.
It's just going to be 45 then.
Yep. I wonder if that says something about you. Like if you're a 5-0 person, you like chewy muffins or something. I wonder if it reveals something about you, like your personality.
Well,
or something.
it's not that because no one wants that. And I know a lot of people that want zeros.
Sterling, this has been, I waited so long to bring it up. And I just figured after a year or so, you'd be like, oh, you know what, Jastin, I need to try that.
Jastin,
I thought maybe your mind would have changed about it.
A couple of years.
It's been so long since I mentioned them.
It's been a couple of years. And probably not a week goes by that I don't just sit there and go, that motherfucker and his chewing muffins.
I'm shocked at this. This is a shocking revelation. I just knew 2 years. They say time heals. I just thought, I thought I'd given enough time.
Yeah,
I'll
time
wait 5
heals
years
until a
and see how it
motherfucker
itches
says
in.
chewy muffin or wet cakes.
I need to give me some of them. Anyway,
which one? Both? You psychopath.
Chewy wet cakes. Like, damn it, man, you made me lose my train of thought. No, I remember now. Iris. We're talking about Iris and all that shit. So yeah, all that shit is cool. All that stuff it was saying with that, like how he set her versus when she got her freedom a little bit and then got to be free and got to choose how smart or dumb or whatever she was. When she got to choose what her settings and what she wanted to be, how free she felt. And so I like kind of this kind of, yes, she is trying to run away. She is trying to survive. She is innocent and she is trying to get away from them. But I also like this internal story of her trying to understand and break away from this programming to ultimately care more about her rather than this person who has sort of, who was in control of her for this whole time. So I like that. And then y'all spoke about it a little bit, but in contrast to that, I think that's also why the Patrick Eli relationship is significant, because here is somebody who was programmed and is a robot and has that programming, but the connection and the love was genuine and it shined through what may have been some initial negative programming or CPU, AI, artificial relationship, whatever. But the actual love and the actual connection shined through even the programming and the attempt to control. So that's tight, man. It's not saying that there's no love out there that can exist with your programming, but it kind of shows that when you can make a real connection, you can get past it. I like that. I fucking like that. But sometimes in Iris's situation, it's not about loving through it. It's sometimes your life is very much about getting out of a bad relationship. So I think the movie's kind of cool for that. I like tackling that from different angles and showing how both situations can be a good thing.
I do think it's interesting, like, yeah, that Iris and Josh are sort of coming from different perspectives on their character development because of this. Because you also realize too, with the way that Josh is at the end, where he has Patrick also under his control, like, I think he just even more was starting to realize that he just liked that. Like, it wasn't even just for him like I need this robot to help me with my plan with Iris. Like, he actually enjoyed just having control of Patrick as well. It's just like, cool, make me my food. Cool, thanks. All right. Like, using him for whatever, for his own gain. It was at that point not like, yeah, it helped in getting Iris and like setting her up and like destroying her, but I think it's something that he would have wanted to do regardless, because he just is a selfish person pretty much. So you see his like character being destroyed because you find out who he really is underneath it all. And then Iris basically being the more actual real human who, doesn't want to do stuff like that to people,
Yeah.
Well, as far as like storytelling goes, it's kind of funny because, like you said, they're having kind of the opposite moment, because she's having like a character progression, and as far as the story's concerned, his is a character regression. Like, you go from seeing him as a good guy to a horrible person.
Yep.
So as far as character development, as far as what we consider like moral or whatever, you see his as the regression to his true self, and her becoming potentially what her true self would be if she had gotten to decide these things, like Jastin was talking about. So they kind of mirror each other. As she progresses and becomes more of who she is, he becomes more of who he is, and morally they cross each other in that way of progression and regression.
Yeah, which is like, it's interesting to think about too, like, just like, who are we when we're left to ourselves? Like, if we got to make the decisions, like, what kind of person do we actually want to be at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And
Versus what, like, everyone or the society or the influencers, whatever the influencers are. Here it's a program, but whatever the influencers are, what happens when you break away from that and you just get to make all those choices for you? Like, what does that look like? What do you look like? What do you allow? What do you not allow then to control you? It's just all of that is in here,
Well, also there's an interesting element of things when it comes to what we were talking about earlier with him declaring he's a good guy and all of those things, of how that language has become coded but accurate, because most people that say they're like, oh, I'm a good guy or I'm a good woman, they typically aren't. It's typically when people say I'm a good person that they're accurate, or I'm a good human is when they tend to be accurate. It's when you have to specify, well, I'm good for a guy or I'm good for a woman, those types of things, like, because they put a weight on it of those types of things, where it's like they're trying to acknowledge that other guys aren't good, but I am. And that's where it always ends up being coded and inaccurate in that regard.
Yeah. And even on top of that, just that, like you're saying, that coded language and him sort of saying, oh, I'm a good guy. It's just that there aren't any good women out there. That's why I have these bots. That's why. But to Heather's point, then he didn't mind using somebody else and replacing her with Patrick. He didn't mind that as long as he was using. So this is just somebody who says he's good, but it's more like in a sociopathic, delusional type of way. He says that and he acts like that. And there's even like almost this part of him that has to put that out in the universe and portray that. That's like the shell. That's like the code. That's like because even in these moments where like that explains why he's doing weird things like turning her back on and telling her that she's really a robot and saying, "Oh, I just wanted to say goodbye." It's that bullshit that that person pretending to be a good person does. "Oh, I'm shitty. I was shitty in this relationship, but let me still get the door and say goodbye and say, if you ever need to talk, I'm here," and all that bullshit. Like, it's like motherfuckers who do that. You know what I mean?
It's like a good, like somebody who quote unquote is a good guy and all this other stuff. They say all the right things, they do all the right things and all this other stuff. But every day they just punch a puppy 12 times.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, that's not a person. It's like, well, and that's the difference between a good guy and a good person. Like, just because you're nice to you do what a guy should do, but you got that uncontrollable urge to punch a puppy 12 times a day.
Yeah, like I'm a good guy because I respect women. Well, can't you just be a good person because you respect people? Like, what is that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what that was. All of that stuff is him going, well, yes, I've used you to murder someone, but I respect you. I'm going to cut you on. I'm going to tell you the truth. And that isn't for her. That's to make him feel better about this shit. That's for him, not for her. Like, you done already done hella, modified her program and made her this corrupt thing that now has killed this person and done all of this stuff. But just that need for him to feel like it's almost like just perform the action to fulfill that delusion that I'm still a good guy in this.
Well, because
I'm still doing the right thing. I'm telling her the truth after all this bullshit.
Well, it's because it serves that need for him.
Yeah,
is ultimately what it is. He doesn't really feel the need to be honest for her sake. He wants to be able to, in his own mind go, but at least I was honest with her in the end.
Yep. That's all it is. So, yep, later he can be somewhere with his 12 million talking about, but I was honest with her, yep, that's all it is. It's that kind of shit. Even at the end, which was his undoing. So I get some of the criticisms of people going, well, why did he turn her on and tell her all that shit? He didn't have to tell her shit. He didn't have to. But see, that's where I'm like, no, that's the flaw of a motherfucker like this.
To me, it makes complete sense why he did that. Like,
yeah. And even at the end, could have shot her, but he's like, oh, any last words and all this other kind of shit because he gets off on that. If she had said, maybe he even wanted to hear, I wish it could have worked out, or I still care about you, or I'm powerless to stop you, or I don't have any words because you're about to kill me right now. Whatever he fantasized he wanted to hear, just even that. Oh, let me give her one last chance to speak. This is a fucking robot. I don't give a fuck. But you know what? For me, I can say, I gave her last words were this. Like, he can be somewhere telling that story. Or he can be somewhere telling himself that story. Like,
but also like kind of using Iris or these robots as a scapegoat because, I mean, he's a psychopath. And if I bet it's one of those where he also feels like, oh, I'm only torturing the robots. I'm not torturing people. I'm just burning a robot's arm. That's okay. Like, really trying to do everything to justify like his own behavior, like you said, like to make himself feel like it's all right, to get away with it, because it's like, I'm not hurting an actual person. It's just a robot. So, I'm not crazy, which makes him crazy.
And even with Sergey, he didn't check to see if this guy was a mob boss or was a bad person or anything like that. He didn't even check. He took her word for it and probably knew Kat wasn't being truthful and just didn't care. Like, it was like, well, I want that 12 million. So this is enough justification for me.
And also, if you really think, like, when you get down to the end of this movie, he wouldn't have cared if he had told her the truth.
He wouldn't have.
Even if it came down to it, and she's like, but what if we did this? He would have been like, 12 million. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. But then acted like he cared. What? He wasn't? Oh man. Well, and then the next sentence is, man, Eli, Patrick doesn't get any because he don't count, you know?
A complete disregard for their relationship too. Just, because the whole thing was like Patrick didn't know either. And he was just like, I don't care. My robot knows, now yours knows. It's fine. Whatever. Like disregarding what anybody else actually needs.
Mm-hmm. Disregarding him and saying he doesn't count because he's a robot. But then ironically needing him and using him later in the movie. But again, it speaks to that whole shit about like what he really is and what his actual intentions are, So, yeah. So, yeah, like, and I'll just wrap this up, but like, yeah, so all of that is good shit, man. I think there's like some fun stuff in here about that kind of stuff. Even just this idea of programming and what a woman is supposed to be and gender roles, and you're a helpmate, you're a companion, you're to accompany the man. That's what your role is. That's what you got to do. You got to be the submissive person that does this, like even just talking about that stuff and the settings and the freedom versus not having it, being held captive by the good times and the good memories with the person, even though maybe this person is not a good person, the coded language that men use sometimes, all of that shit is in here, but none of it happens in a preachy sort of like fake sort of way. Like these are all subtle things that we were just picking up watching the movie, and all subtle enough to where you don't feel like you're being preached at or pointed the finger at, but out there enough to where you can appreciate what every character means. On top of telling an engrossing story that's funny and has good characters throughout. So, yeah, man, this movie is definitely of a higher caliber than like, your mid-level and stuff like that. But, it deserves more credit than that. There's a lot more here than just the surface level story, for those reasons. So just wanted to add those things and say why I enjoyed it.
No, that's a good point. I mean, especially with this movie, like I said, it really hinges on the characters. It really hinges on that. And that's why, like
and
I
what
said,
they mean and everything. Yep,
I do
does.
truly feel like this movie succeeds in that regard. You guys got any more thoughts about this movie?
Nope.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We are cinema_slayers on Threads, on Letterboxd, on Instagram. We're at Cinema Slayers Pod on TikTok and YouTube. We're Cinema Slayers Pod. I'll remember the whole blue sky shit. I'll remember that shit. I'll remember it one day. I'll type it out. I'll have it in my notes. I'll read it. We're on Blue Sky. Just find us there, I guess. Give us a 5-star rating review. We'd really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
100% intelligence.
That's fair.
Go.
We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, pro naked. You. Yes, you cinefans, you are enough. Justice for Chris, justice for Todd, justice for all those wonderful stunt people, animators, and caterers out there making these movies possible. We really love all that. And, justice for all those AI robots. Not AI, because AI is of the devil. Like when there were people just take things and they AI mod it, and every single person just becomes like a weird ogre person, and it's real creepy, and I hate it. I hate all that. But AI robots, justice for you. Because we create them and then we vilify them. It's not their fault. They didn't ask to be created. Shout out to Plug Migo and Moon Show for our theme song and logos, respectively. As I always in the TikToks, the YouTube videos, and most importantly, this podcast, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is the best picture winner. One thing I found out while we were recording, the guy that plays Sergey, what's his name? Rupert Friend, sorry. He's also going to be in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Rebirth. He's also
okay.
Oh, nice.
A little full circle moment. And I also realized after we moved on, I forgot to do my Pinta Minute.
Oh,
That's
you sure
right.
did.
Pinta came out number 2 in the Royal Rumble. Looked fantastic in the blue. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did have kind of a mess up. He technically got eliminated kind of early. But ultimately, as the record goes, though, he's the Iron Man of the match.
Yeah.
There's weirdly a lot of Pinta hate, though, after the Royal Rumble, because there was rumblings of a wrestler after he got eliminated. He was mad about another wrestler saying, "Oh, he just had to get his moves in and was ruining stuff." And everybody's like, "Oh, it was Pinta." It wasn't. Came out being somebody else. I'm not necessarily going to do the whole dirt sheet thing, but it wasn't Pinta, guys. But calm the fuck down. Like, after a certain point, he was lying in the corner for a very long time in the Royal Rumble. He wasn't the problem. He was doing the corner thing for a very long time. But looked fantastic in the blue. Loved it. And then, on Raw, he went back to the normal, the outfit and stuff, which is great. Love it. But I like that he's going to have pay-per-view outfits.
Yeah, of course. Got to.
Yeah.
Got to step it up, man. You're in the E now. You're in the E.
Well, him and his brother always went out on the pay-per-views, though. They would always do their special gear when they did that. But, there's something about that monochromatic blue with just the black and the mask. Oh, fantastic.
And how cool was it that he got to start with Rey Mysterio?
Oh, yeah.
That was badass, dude.
You ever want to see a fantastic match, go watch Lucha Underground, because him and Rey Mysterio had a fucking great match in that.
Oh, I need to look at that. Okay.
He also had a fantastic match with, I think, the women's Iron Man and Io Sky or Iron Woman. They had a fucking great match in Lucha Underground. Also, great match with Chelsea Green in Lucha Underground. Yes, Pinta fought a few women in Lucha Underground. Fantastic matches, though. Like I said, especially Io Sky. Oh, man. That's a fucking classic in Lucha Underground. So, just had to get that in, because I forgot. Because we had so much other stuff in the news, I completely forgot about my Pinta update. So, wanted to drop that in real quick. And I forgot to do this earlier too. We might as well do it. Just a small little quick update too. Jastin, there's a rumor that you had chestnuts again. What was your chestnuts round 2?
You had to bring that up.
What was your chestnut? How was your chestnuts round 2, Jastin?
Terrible.
Since he doesn't want to go into it, I'll go into it for a little bit.
No.
He sent us audio messages about how disgusting everything was. He was irate, people. Irate. He was like, I heated him up, put some cinnamon on him, and wanted to just vomit.
He was the worst mistake of my life. And I hate that. I hate that for me. And I hate you for doing this to me.
I'm just saying, blame Christmas, Jastin.
You've ruined that portion of Christmas for me. You've ruined it. Now 5% of my Christmas is ruined.
Blame Christmas songs. Blame Christmas. That's the real reason. Not me. I was trying to fulfill your wish. You wanted chestnuts roasted on an open fire. I provided you with those chestnuts, Jastin.
Maybe because they weren't actually over an open fire. They just didn't work.
All right, Jastin.
That's the secret.
That's try number 3. Got to roast them over an open fire.
Stop.
Stop.
Man, every time I hear that song, I'm going to grumble.
I'm just saying,
It's your fault.
Heather has a good point. You have not tried them true Christmas style yet. Have you? Have you tried them true Christmas style?
Oh my gosh. I'm scared, guys. I'm scared, guys.
I'm not. I'm going to sit here
I
with
fear them
anticipation.
I fear them.
Jastin's got to have those true Christmas style chestnuts. We can't write them off yet, Jastin. We can't completely declare chestnuts a failure until you get those true Christmas edition chestnuts.
Man, it'll taste bad and be hot. I'm not ready for that. It'll just be a hot bad.
I'm ready for
That's
it.
worse. That's worse than a lukewarm bad or even a cold bad. The worst kind of food is when it's bad and hot. It's the worst.
I don't know, Jastin. I just think that's the true testament to the validity of Christmas and chestnuts. Is that Christmas edition chestnut?
I hate that you did this to me. I hate you ruined that song.
You know what you got to do,
You
Jastin.
ruined it.
You know what you got to do. I didn't ruin shit, Jastin. It was garbage before I said anything.
You should just let me. I mean, I'm your boy. You're supposed to let me keep thinking it was all right.
No, Jastin, it's because
Should've never ate them.
It is because you are my friend that I wanted you to know the truth.
I don't like the truth.
You
It
can't
hurts.
handle the truth.
It hurts too much.
Jastin, you know nothing about pain yet.
That's what they were talking about. When they say the truth hurts, they had to have been talking about chestnuts. With cinnamon.
It really kind
They
of
had to have been talking. I know that's what they were talking about.
it really puts the end of A Few Good Men into a weird perspective.
Well, there aren't a few good chestnuts.
I don't know, Jastin. We'll find out. We will
They're
find
just
out.
all bad.
We will find out.
Just all. No, please.
Got to get that open fire, Jastin. Got to get that open fire.
Man, if I walk in that door when I'm visiting y'all and I see chestnuts on open fire, I'm leaving. I'm on the first plane back to Texas.
Not until you eat one. Got to at least have one. What if we just take 3 chestnuts and we roast them over an open fire and we each just have one chestnut?
I don't like it. I don't want you to share in my disdain. I don't want you to share what happened to me.
Justin, the thing is I won't
Hey,
be
something
sharing.
bad happened to me. Friends, do you want it bad to happen to you too? I'm not that kind of person, Sterling.
But Justin,
I don't
that's
want
the
bad
thing.
things to happen to you. I wish the best for you.
But Justin, that's the thing. Is it would be the best for me.
No,
Because knowing
It's
you're in
terrible,
pain would bring me joy.
and not while but then you would eat it, and you would go, "This was a mistake."
Justin,
You
I don't
would
think
go,
you
"Oh, brother,
understand
this
how
is a
much
mistake."
I'm willing to put myself through to bring torment to others. Just ask anybody
You
that's
should
been
love
around me
yourself
in a
more.
bottle of Malort. I will put
You should
myself
love
through
yourself more.
endless torture to just make them a little worse. Yeah, you should know
And
this,
not
Jastin.
good.
I gleefully watched Good Luck Chuck just to bring you pain.
Oh, Have you
Gleefully.
seen Good Luck Chuck? Heather, put that on the list with
can say I have not.
with the cape and Good Luck Chuck.
Oh man, Jastin, when you
Oh,
come here,
man.
we got to do that. We got to both sit there and watch Heather watch Good Luck Chuck.
Oh no.
Maybe then, Jastin, you'll understand why I do what I do.
That's my version of like roasted chestnuts is just watching Good Luck Chuck.
Yes. Pretty.
Like I said, I think you really underestimate how much other people's pain and suffering brings me happiness. And you said you wanted nothing but the best for me, Jastin. Then you got to eat that chestnut.
No, I ate them twice, Sterling. Twice.
You never did it
It
authentic
was
Christmas.
bad. And then
Jastin.
worse. It was worse, Sterling. I warmed it up and it was worse.
But see,
Can you
Jastin,
imagine it with fire?
haven't you ever heard it gets worse before it gets better? Maybe you just didn't get up to better temperature. You just got it to worse temperature. You need to keep going to get it to
Maybe-
that better temp.
Maybe that phrase was also inspired by chestnuts.
Exactly, Jastin. You got to you got to keep cooking it. You got to keep roasting it until it gets to that better.
I don't like it. This is not good.
We have
Why
a
can't you
plan.
just buy me Garrett?
You know what, Jastin? I'll have a tin of Garrett's waiting for you after chestnut.
I don't think it's worth it. You don't understand how bad it tasted, brother.
I'm
Wow.
It tasted
I'm
bad,
starting
bro.
to understand.
Like, you sit there
if you turn
Giggling
down
and shit.
Garrett's,
It was bad,
if you
Sterling.
turn down
It was
Garrett's
bad.
because of
You
it,
think I was pretending when I made that voice message? I was upset, Sterling. I was in an emotional wreck.
Yeah, I mean,
It
if you're
was-
saying
it
you won't even
tasted
take
terrible.
Garrett's for it,
It tasted terrible, Sterling.
Jastin, what
I
if-
was an emotional wreck.
Jastin, but what if it's a fresh tin of Garrett's, Jastin? Just a fresh old tin of Garrett's. Good old Chicago mix. Just waiting for you. All you gotta do is eat one chestnut, and then you can devour that tin of Garrett's.
It's not worth it, man. Something happened, Sterling, when I ate it. And none of it good.
It sounds like the best.
It was terrible.
But Jastin,
Sterling. It was-
I haven't even gotten to see the face though. I haven't even gotten to see you make chestnut face.
You don't want to see that face?
There's nothing I want to see more in my life.
You don't want to know what happened.
Oh, nothing more than I want to see that. We need to.
I was
We
so
need to do a
mad.
series. You know how like Hot Ones they do that whole thing. We need to do a chestnuts of just slightly more roasted chestnuts. It starts with unroasted, just to hella roasted, and just try to answer questions while eating chestnuts.
I couldn't
I
even
just-
chew it, Sterling. It just fell out of my mouth. I couldn't even chew it.
didn't even get that far.
And you
I
sitting
just-
here talking about, I couldn't even chew it.
I'm so
I
happy
just-
right now.
I picture you just like turning into the angry emoji when you talk about your thoughts on this chestnut. Like you were just the human form of that like angry emoji.
I have yet to
I
hear a
was.
downside of making you do this again.
I couldn't even chew it, Sterling.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I have to see it.
How do you add cinnamon and not help you? Like, what can cinnamon not help?
Apparently, chestnuts.
I mean, it didn't help it at all. It somehow strengthened its power to be gross. It strengthened it.
Oh, the joy I am getting.
And that's stupid. Like, do you understand how stupid that is? It's cinnamon,
Oh,
Sterling.
it sounds
It's
fantastic.
cinnamon. I mean, how did that not help? And some
Oh,
motherfucker told me it would. Now I want to shoot someone. On top of never taste a chestnut again.
Oh, Oh, my heart is filled with joy. I now know what the Grinch went through when they were singing that song and his heart grew 3 times.
Stop.
That's just how much joy I have right now, Jastin.
I mean, the person who told me that, I want to buy some of those cinnamon churros. I'm gonna wait to the carnival, buy some of those cinnamon churros, and beat them with them. Because why would you tell me that was good?
But Jastin, what if we did it with
Oh,
cinnamon?
just put cinnamon on. And they said it so matter of fact, like I wasn't walking into a death trap.
Jastin,
Like, I just hate how matter of fact they told me, oh yeah, just put cinnamon on. Like it was just a known thing, like, oh, it's gonna be great.
okay, Jastin.
And so I wasn't cautious about it, Sterling. I just threw it. I just went, all right, down the hatch. And I was like, what the fuck? I was irate.
All right, but Jastin.
I was irate.
Jastin,
dude.
did you know they make Cinnamon Toast Crunch Spice?
They do?
Yeah, a mixture of cinnamon and sugar. It sounds like that's what we need to put on them.
No, it
Sounds like it'd be better.
It sounds like you should shut up about it.
Okay, Jastin, it's gonna happen. Like you're just delaying the inevitable, just so you know. Like it's happening, and we're gonna film it.
Film.
We're gonna film all 3 of us doing it. The chestnut challenge, just eating a singular chestnut.
We're going to be trending.
We're gonna be starting that new TikTok viral trend, eating a chestnut.
challenge.
Can you eat a whole chestnut? It's just a bunch of people like, and just not able to actually eat it.
And playing that music in the background, just to get a collage of all of them and just have that music playing in the background.
Oh yeah,
Just
see, you see it,
so
Jastin. And it's gonna start with you. Oh, you know what song would go great with that? Mad World from Donnie Darko. Find it kind of funny. I find it kind of sad.
The dreams of which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. Oh man!
You put it in your mouth on Mad World. It's coming together better than I could have ever imagined.
I haven't wanted to physically harm an individual in a long time, Sterling. Like it's just, I'm talking a vendetta. I mean, I wish that person. I just almost wish that person wasn't there that day to tell me to put cinnamon on them.
Oh, no.
If I could find the Infinity Stones, I would.
You can go back in time before you ate a chestnut a second time.
Yes.
Of all the things you could do with like turning back time, that's it. That is the one right there.
And then what's going to happen, though, is you're going to see a chestnut and it's going to look at you and go, but I am inevitable.
No. I am unedible.
We'll find out, Jastin. We'll find
That's
out.
what it would say. That's what it would say.
I'm going to get some Cinnamon Toast Crunch seasoning and we're going to roast some chestnuts.
It's going to have nightmares.
Season them all up. Pop in our mouths.
Cinnamon roast toast, chestnut crunch.
I've yet to
It's
hear
catchy.
Yet to hear a downside.
Oh.
All right,
I gotta
guys.
go to bed on this.
All right.
hate you.
I'm out.
Mm.